I am a Sri Lankan Canadian, and I did my entire schooling in India. I went on to do my dentistry in Chennai from SRM. And once I graduated from SRM, I came back home to Canada. And due to certain family situations, I had to take a couple of years break. And then when I came back into dentistry, I realized that there was a big gap in my education. So during COVID, I went back again to school. I did a dental hygiene program. And while I was in the hygiene program, at the same time, I was simultaneously like preparing myself for the INBD exams. And I was in touch with Caapid Simplified. And this was early 2021. And at that point, you had a fellowship program. So I was a part of that. And because of that, I had access to everybody like Divakar, Flynn, Meenakshi, the whole team. I had access to them, and I would talk to them and prepare myself for the cycle. And eventually, when I graduated hygiene, the next month, I submitted my application and I got accepted in my first round. So that's like my journey in short.
Thank you, Sharmini. I think that sounded very simple, but then I know that the journey wasn't as simple.
It wasn't, yeah.
I remember that, but I think we'll go into the details as we go as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But can you also tell us about a bit of, so I remember that you had a few more things on your profile, like including a preceptorship.
Yes. So
Yeah,
yeah.
so do you want to just tell them also what else you had, and then the questions can be directed based on that to you.
Yeah. So apart from
Yeah.
doing my hygiene program, I did a lot of many other things. One was a preceptorship program in endodontics at UCLA, but it was done many years ago. So and then I went on to volunteer throughout COVID. I volunteered with an organization, and I had about like 600 hours of volunteering. I was very consistent, even though if I could only volunteer once or twice a week, but I volunteered for many years. So it was something which was very consistent, something what I was passionate about. I just didn't like volunteer with, anything and everything. I picked an organization which, struck a chord with me, and I volunteered with them. And through that volunteering opportunity, I also got another opportunity to become to be a part of a pilot research project in Canada. And it was like as a emergency cardiac resuscitation, a volunteer. So they geared me up when somebody had a like a heart attack or a cardiac issue. It was like an app technology where I would be intimated through the app and I could reach the place within 6 minutes. And I got this opportunity through the COVID volunteering. So this was another thing which I kept doing along with hygiene. And I did like many kinds of volunteering, shadowing, working. I didn't shy away from anything. I tried everything, and whichever I liked, I went on to keep doing it.
Awesome. Was there ever a question, Sharmini, throughout your profile or interviews that you gave at different schools about why you did a preceptorship in something that is not general dentistry? Was there ever a conversation?
So I was interviewed at USC, and I got waitlisted, and I was the first one off the waitlist. And after I got accepted, I got an interview at Colorado, and I didn't even go for it. So my whole thing was just very short and quick.
And at USC, it's not a conversational interview, right? So this probably
Yeah.
wouldn't have come up.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Yes, and so before, I see that there are questions. There is a question about USC. We'll get to USC, which is, I think, what a lot of people want to do here, especially when it comes to USC. There are questions that they might want to address. But before that, a few things about your general application. What about TOEFL, Sharmini? How was TOEFL for you, and how much did you score? If that's okay, and what was your strategies like?
Yeah. So I got 112 score, and for me, I think I was kind of strong with my English, like with my TOEFL part. But then I studied for very few days, like 3-4 days, but then I kind of knew the structure of TOEFL, how to prepare it. Though I studied for very few days, I kind of had the, like, I exactly knew what to do because I had given TOEFL 2 years prior to that. So I knew how to prepare, what to do. And it was, I would watch videos and I exactly knew how to do the reading, writing, listening, all the parts. So that's how I ended up getting 112.
Did you use any practice like websites, anything that you might want to share with the participants?
Yeah, I used
Okay.
to go on YouTube and I just used to delve into everything, read everything, whatever I could get. And I was like hyper focused. When I was giving the TOEFL, I would only focus on TOEFL. I didn't do anything else. It was just that. And yeah, I just did it. I think like you need to gauge yourself. You need to have an honest conversation with yourself on where you stand. You need to know, okay, this is my this is where I stand, and then how can I improve from here? You need to assess yourself. Like, you can't be me or I can't be you, right? It's individualistic. So like, and for USC, they're looking at like 100. Like, if you have 100, they're happy with it.
That's right. All right. And you did mention a few years of gap, right, Sharmini,
Yeah,
here and there, like
yeah.
because you were doing the hygienist course and all of that. So how did you craft your personal statement? This is one question that came quite a bit in the form. They didn't ask this because they know about your gap, but the question is general. Do I mention my weaknesses? Do I mention my gaps? So in your case, because you had gaps, did you address them in your statement, and how did that go?
So yeah, I had a very long gap, and my gap was because one of my parent was very ill, and I was taking care of them for 5-6 years. And after that, I went on to have a family. I had a daughter, so it was a very big gap. And what I did was, while crafting the SOP, we didn't shy away from that. Instead, we embraced it and we owned the story, and we brought into that, like, what I learned from being a caretaker, from stepping into that position to be with my family, my parents, how, what are the, like, how I became as a person. I started taking care of my father's business. So what are the traits I learned through business, and all of those things we added meticulously into the SOP. So for me, I just bared everything. Like, there was, I didn't try to cover it up. Rather, I changed it as my strength.
Was the business dental related?
No.
And you yet mentioned it to
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about your
Yeah. And I
qualification.
mentioned a very critical part was that I was a long-term caretaker and my mother was on dialysis. So how that whole process of going through that with my mother, being on the other end of the spectrum, of being a caretaker, that the part of being empathetic, understanding, all those things are incorporated into my statement of purpose.
That's a very, I mean, and thank you for sharing that with us, Sharmini. I know it's a very personal thing to talk about,
Yeah.
but I think, like she said, taking every experience in your life and showing that as a strength is what is more important rather than making that the weak, not weakness, but making the people say in simple terms, I don't want my statement to be a sob story. So this is not
Yeah.
like that. The focal
Yeah.
point is how you make the lemons, turn the lemons into lemonades is what you're trying
Yeah.
to write in
Yeah.
your.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so I think we have, so before the next question, Dr. Drashti is asked here. Can you share what you knew exactly, sorry, about TOEFL? I'm not sure I understand the question. Did you say something like
So
this? That
I think what she's expecting is, what I knew exactly about the TOEFL is, for example, for writing, they want your writing to be coherent. It shouldn't be blocky and choppy. It should go with the flow, right? So I knew that, and then I practiced on, like, writing stories with the flow of, like, communicating, putting my ideas in a very, like, in a story like fashion, where they could understand, comprehend it easily, rather than it being choppy and not having a continuity. So that's with writing. For speaking, I was very fast. I kept practicing. I would listen to my own voice notes and see if I hit what I wanted to hit. Was I able to, deliver all the message when I'm talking? Like, all those things I would keep practicing while speaking. And I think we have writing, speaking, listening. You need to grasp the core concepts of what they're trying to say. So they're not testing of how good you're at English. They're testing if you can understand, comprehend, and that's what that. You don't need to be the best, but you need to know what they're looking for. So that's like, even for reading and writing, in the passages, your eye should be trained to pick the main words. Like for me, I'm a voracious reader. I read a lot of books and I can skim and skip, right? So that skimming and skipping is very important, where okay, in this line, these are the important words and how to bring it about. So it's about practice.
Practice is definitely key, and I think I liked what you said earlier about how you need to be honest with yourself, have an honest conversation with yourself about where you stand. That is amazing, because I think that's very important in this process, because there is no point in just thinking that I'll be fine and also thinking I'll not be fine at all. It's about finding that exact sweet spot where you are and then doing what you have to do, especially for TOEFL, because I feel a lot of us think, because most of us have a good grasp on the language and then we think we don't have to practice, but practice is the only thing that gets us through. Thank you, Sharmini. And on a related side note, there is a blog that recently Sushmita from our team penned. So please take a look in this. Multiple applicants like Dr. Akash and Sanchita have written their inputs. They wrote the new pattern for TOEFL, new test, and scored really high. So you might find something there, which might help you further in your practice. Dr. Vidya asks, how many schools did you apply to? Yes, Sharmini, how many schools did you apply?
I applied in the middle of August because I was doing my hygiene. As soon as I graduated, applied, and I grabbed about, I think, 11, 12 schools.
That is a great number. And how fortunate that, like, you got through in that one school without having to interview in a lot of places.
Yeah, yeah.
That's amazing. And you mentioned you have an MDS from, like, of
No,
course. I mean, sorry,
BDS.
BDS, my bad,
Yeah,
but no MDS.
no.
So this sort of brings us to the biggest question about USC that everyone has, and Dr. Sylvie here has as well, which is, do I apply if I do not have masters? Does USC prefer or only accept people with masters? I think you're the best person to
No,
talk about
yeah.
this. Please go
So
ahead.
we are 34 students, and we have a great mix of students, of people from different backgrounds, not just MDS. There are MDSs there, but we have people who have had experience in the army, in from Nigeria. Like they don't have like MDS, but they have an army background from Nigeria. We have people who are fresh grads but who have done many externships in Boston and in Canada. And then we have a lot of hygienists in the program, like myself. So we do have MDS students, but we also at the same time have people from unique backgrounds, people, who had great clinical experience. So it's a mixture.
So it feels like USC likes to see that people have done different kinds of things to enrich
Yeah,
themselves.
yes, they want people who do not MDS specifically, but something. It could be something you're passionate about, something, which drives you, but, something more. Like
Okay, sounds
the a person who's done BDS, it doesn't mean they just only did BDS. The person who got accepted, they've gone to University of British Columbia, they've done externships there, they've done a small online courses in from Boston University. So like it's they've done something.
got it. I think this is a big thing that you have addressed here, and I'm glad that you are this kind of example to talk about it, because again, these preferences that you hear about schools, all of you here, If you have a budgetary concern, I think, okay, maybe you can weed out a few schools based on that. But still, now that you know what USC is looking for, they're not just looking for masters, anything over and above your BDS, which most of you might have in different capacities. And I love that you mentioned, Sharmini, about the Nigerian dentist background of army. So it's not even about how you have a very mainstream different dental experience, but anything that really talks about your story or talks about a story which is different than others. And USC is a place to apply that. And speaking about, you mentioned demographics in terms of experience. And if it's okay, what about the demographics in terms of like nationality or ethnicity? Is that diverse as well?
Yeah, I mean, the word diverse, it couldn't go to any other school but USC. It's as diverse as diversities, it could get. We 34, we represent the entire world. It's amazing. We come from the whole world. We have students there, and it's so much fun. We get to learn from each other. We embrace each other, and it's really nice. So USC it's truly diverse.
That is nice to hear. I hope that is, if there's anyone here who is thinking about acceptance rates, know that USC does, accept people from all and above, because there are some schools that at least portray in some years not a lot of diversity, which does send a lot of people into a little bit of panic mode. So
No, that's
this is
not the
nice.
case from USC.
All right. Okay. Dr. Vidya asks, did you give Kira assessment test for any school? If so, can you please share some questions that you can remember?
I
I
have
think she
not given
said
Kira.
no.
Yeah.
Yes. She has not. We can come to that, Vidya. I can share some information with you. But before that, Sharmini, let's talk about USC's interview pattern, which is, again, when it comes to USC, there are certain things that people are always thinking about, which is PBL in USC's case. Anything that you can share about the interview format, or rather, how should they be prepared for it? It would be amazing. So if
So,
you can do.
yeah, USC has a 2-day interview. The first day is PBL. The second day we have bench exam. The first day PBL, you're pre-divided into groups. You get to know which group. So yeah, all of these people have had invites, or they're gonna like apply for the next cycle.
I sort of know the answer, but let us make them answer. What do you think?
Okay.
Everyone, can you all, if you all can again unmute and speak or video, I would love that. But if not, please raise your hands and tell us how many of you all are applying to 2025 cycle. Okay, a lot of us.
Okay.
Okay, there are still, okay, there are people who are replying here as well. Oh, look, okay, I think most of us,
Then
most of them
okay. Yeah.
are applying. Just
Yeah.
one more question, Sharmini, before you go ahead. Anyone who has, you all can lower your hands now. Anyone who has interviewed already with any school in the last few cycles or given your bench test? Okay. Okay. Some of them, two of them. Okay. Yes, Sharmini, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just before I start, let me just say something that USC, they love reapplicants and they really pay attention to reapplicant. If you're a reapplicant, they watch you and there's a reason why they've invited you again. So do not shy away from applying to USC again and again. And then learn from each cycle to the other cycle. You can learn something. So that's one thing. Going into the PBL means problem based learning. So you're pre-divided into groups and you know which group you belong to when you come here. As soon as you come, you go into the groups of like 8 to 10 people, and there's a facilitator, like a faculty sitting with you. You go there and it's a very medical based scenario where you're given like a case, something like there's somebody who goes for a class reunion, he's going on a trip, and then he goes to the seaside, he's eating a lot of seafood, he goes on the boat and he falls sick, and what is this diagnosis? So a lot of us, even myself, we try really hard on knowing the exact diagnosis. We think that is what they're looking at, but actually that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at how you handle stress, how you work with people, your collaboration with your colleagues. Are you respectful of other people? Do you appreciate other people's opinions, or do you cut them while you're talking, or do you not agree? Are you not, like, you keep maybe not putting down somebody? Like, some people say, okay, you're not right, my answer is right. Do you do those things? They are not testing your knowledge, they are testing your skills, your social skills. They are literally watching you on how you interact with people. And USC likes humorous, chill people. They like people, for the 34 of us, most of us are very chill. We are very, easygoing. They like people who can handle stress efficiently.
I think it's the whole PBL that makes people always look at USC as that one school that's a little far away from the rest of the cluster. And I know I've spoken to a lot of people who have a lot of inhibitions about applying to USC, and the reasons are masters, of course, and then PBL. And I think you've broken both those, like
Yeah,
burst both those
and
myths.
PBL throughout our course now, till now, we do PBL every week. We are given a case, we need to solve it in a group. So we sit together, we solve it, we discuss, and they make us research. We present it to the faculty again. So it's a very, like, they make you go find, you go research. They want you to think beyond books, because when you go practice clinically, they want you to be able to troubleshoot any situation. Go into the ADA website, know what are the how I can do this. They want you to think out of the box.
Yes, they've mentioned multiple times that they do this because their curriculum also works this way, and that's amazing.
Yeah,
Testing you to see sort of if you fit in, right? That's what all the
yeah,
schools want to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
Since we're talking about the school, Sharmini, anything that you can share about what does this program at USC look like? Like, what is your day like as a student at
Yeah.
USC?
So we have, our program is trimester based, right? And we have 6 trimesters. We start off with the first trimester, which is extremely rigorous. Like, they throw you in the hot pot when you start. You go from Monday to Friday morning, 8 till 5, 6, sometimes even 8. You're attending lectures, you're doing sim labs, you're giving exams every Friday. You Sometimes we give exams from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Like, so many projects. And it like, we just held on to each other those first 4 months, 3 months. It was really hard, especially when you're a mother, when you have family. It's very hard. But even in the hard times, we laugh at each other, we cry together. It's funny when we're all crying together. You don't feel the stress, right? So it's fine. But there's a lot of studying, there's a lot of skill work happening. We were there Saturday, Sunday. I used to go at 6 o'clock and keep working fillings, all those things. So it is very intense, the first trimester. The second trimester is, again, these 2 trimesters are sim labs. You don't do work on patients. The second trimester is also a different kind of stress, where you're slowly integrating into the clinic. They might give you a couple of perio cases here and there, but you're doing a lot more exams, where you have a subject where you integrate everything. So even that, we had like a lot of intense exams. It was hard. The first 2 trimester were not easy, very stressful, sleepless. But with the third trimester, we've gone clinical now. So it's, for me, I'm a hands-on person, and I like interacting with people. So having a real patient there, I'm much more happy than a typhodont for me. I'd rather, interact with a patient and do something than sit with a typhodont.
True. And now, here on out, clinical will be more, right? Right?
Yeah, it's only
Right.
clinicals henceforth.
Anything that you know about the patient intake or rollout at USC, because that's a concern for a lot of applicants as well.
We have great patient pool, because we are located at the heart of LA, and around us we have there's a lot of low economic strata people living who can't afford private dental office treatments, so they do come to us. And then they've been coming, a lot of them have been coming for years, and they keep coming. We have a mobile dental bus, a neighborhood dental van, in which we keep going on rotations. We do sealants there, we go into schools, we have rotations, in emergency clinics. So patient wise, I don't think there is anything lacking. In fact, you get too many patients, you need to be able to handle it.
That's nice to get, and that's what is a primary parameter for a lot of applicants, if not
Mhm.
all of them. Dr. Kimaya is asking, can you please expand on how you prepared for your PBL, for your interview? So I'm assuming the USC interview.
So I first went through many YouTube videos to understand what PBL is. Then I had a junior of mine from India who was here. She was ahead of me. So she kind of just walked me through it. And I kind of knew, but mostly what she told me was to be myself, not to talk too much, not talk. You need to talk, you need to voice your opinion, be able to collaborate with people, listen. Some people think it's about the more I talk, the more they're gonna like you. No, it's not that. It's even if you're quiet, if you say one good point, they're still gonna appreciate you. Like you're a listener. So among the 34 of us, there needs to be a person who's a listener, a talker, listeners. They're picking the people they want. It's not about your knowledge, it's not about the
Yeah.
disease, it's about how you get, but how you get to the answer in a group. It's not about you, I know this, I know that. It's not about what you know, rather it's about how you work with the other 10 classmates and the 10 people in the PBL, and how you cohesively come to an answer, right? You're a
Yes.
group. You're not fighting against each other. Even me, I thought I'm fighting against each other. No, you're not. You're fighting against yourself. You're with you. You're going there for yourself. These are all your team members. You're not in a competition there. Like, we go in with that mindset, like, I need to be the best, but it's not that. Do you get what I'm saying, Flynn?
I did. I'm sorry. I was on mute. Yes, absolutely. And I'm really liking these little one-liners you're giving here and there, which is the most recent one being you're not fighting with the others, you're fighting with yourself, which is
Yeah.
again, I know we call the others in the application pool your competitors, but they are in some ways, yes. But
Yeah.
like she said, the ideology or the mindset should not be that, because you just
For
have to keep.
PBL, you're not
Yeah,
fighting.
not
You're
that
a
exactly.
group. You're like going like a family. I'm a family, and we're going to come to the result together. We are going to pass this like a family.
Yes,
In the
absolutely.
bench exam, you are enemies. You're going for a fight. So it's all it's
We'll come
different.
to the bench next, and yes, that's why I said in some aspects of the application, yes, but for PBL, like you said, absolutely
No,
not.
no.
And this
You're a
is a
family. Yeah.
misconception.
Yeah.
I think you've been breaking a lot of misconceptions through this,
Yeah.
which I'm really really grateful for.
Yeah.
Um, but just one more question on the PBL before we move ahead. And while I agree that this is more about like how you speak, and I've heard this time and again in a lot of these YouTube videos, like you said, and even I think IDC, TDA, all of them have put out some information about this, about proctors and all of it. You guys should watch that. So, but my question is, like, keeping that apart, that is obviously something that the applicants, participants should be mindful about. But if you were to skim through something dental, just to help you with that case solving
Mm.
as well, would you
No,
see it would be like radiographic or nothing at all? Like,
no,
don't have to
it's
do
your,
that.
yeah, USC doesn't give dental cases so far. It's
Only give
always
medical, I
it's
mean, health.
medical
It
cases.
could be anything.
So yeah, just like if you really want to study something, like I did a lot of research, but it's like, okay, if somebody comes, there's some problem, you could prescribe a blood test, you could do a CT scan, like if they have a problem, like they met with an accident, or you could do there's a lesion which is not healing, you could do a biopsy, like those kind of sensible things. You get what I mean?
Got it. So there's no need to really dig in deep
Yeah.
into the technical.
Instead of focusing on doing that, focus on being a team player,
Got
discuss
it.
with your friends on how you, okay, so somebody has a point and then you want to add to it. Don't just jump to it. Just be like, oh, that was said really well, Dr. Flynn. And to add to that, I would like to put this point. Like, do you know the transition, how I'm bringing it? Like, add to somebody. Don't try to, like, I'm better. Instead, like, yeah, work together. So I would work on getting these kind of phrases. Okay, so, oh, that was so done. And to add to that, I would like find these
Yeah.
hook sentences. I had
Connectors.
like these 10
Yeah.
hook sentences. Yeah.
That is nice. This is like sort of in a lot of ways, it's like preparing for a regular interview as well, but thinking of you as a big group, like you said, a big family. Don't hijack the conversation, but connect is what our head coach MS is saying. Yes. Right?
Yes.
Like don't cut through, don't hijack and let them speak. And I think a lot of times if you let the others speak, that is also considered to be a strength, right? Because you're
Yes. Yeah,
taking on everything.
they really like people who are listeners, They like it. We think we need to talk all the time. No, if you're a person who listens, just go with the flow. They like such people because the 34 of us cannot all be talkers. There has to be listeners, talkers, a mixture, right? So don't, like, if this is your core character, it's fine. Just go with the flow.
That is nice. And I think this whole talk about PBL has spurred a few questions. So we'll quickly go through those. What material to study? I think you've already covered, Charmini, how to prepare for PBL.
Yeah. Yeah.
Priya asks, do you speak promptly or do they give you chance and everyone speaks one by one?
So usually the facilitator will be like, okay, who wants to be a scriber? You can talk the first time, you can talk the second time. It's very natural. Just go with the flow. If you feel like I didn't take any role because I didn't want to take a role, I just sat back and enjoyed. I enjoyed and I put my bits in. So if you feel like, okay, I don't want to, like, be a scriber, writer, just it's okay. It's fine. Do what you feel confident with. Yeah, it goes in a circle. It goes like this. Sometimes, you could even add, be like, you could put your hand, but I would suggest respect the circle. Let everybody get a chance.
Makes sense. Yeah, you don't want to seem over eager also. You want to respect the
Yeah, yeah.
time of
And
everybody.
it doesn't mean that if you talk less, that they don't like it. No, they like every kind of people. If you talk sense, whenever you talk, it should be sense. Otherwise, don't talk. You get what I mean?
Yes, that is that's true.
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
answer that again?
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I know it's not funny. It's just amusing because you're right. If you speak sense. Otherwise, you
yeah,
don't speak.
yeah. So whenever
Uh,
you feel like I'm gonna talk, just make sure, am I making sense? Or just be like, okay, like other
yeah.
people will talk and be like, yeah, that you can even appreciate people. You don't want to talk, but you're like, yeah, I had that in my mind. Even I was thinking the same. It's fine.
And I think this, again, this one liner that Sharmini has brought up is applicable to multiple parts of your application participants. Like, for example, your personal statement. Don't fluff up the personal statement for no reason. Like, if you're writing something like that, be of sense, right? Like, don't just write generic statements and fluff up your answer, sorry. And your supplementals also. A lot of people tend to, write a lot of general statements to just fluff up your supplementals. Don't do that. And of course, your interview, which is even if it's not PBL, if one-on-one interview as well, do not say something if you don't have anything to say. I think the one question that we bring up this aspect a lot is when they ask, do you want to ask us something or do you have any questions for us?
Yeah,
That's one time that a lot of people end up asking very generic things or things that are on the website, on the homepage. Don't
yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
So,
So
yes.
for
Yeah.
me, my junior was in the school. So she told me this question is gonna come. So I knew I was prepared. So
Oh, USC also asked you that?
yeah, they asked you at the end, what do you have any questions? And in the introduction, the facilitator he told us he was an ASPID USC student like 15 years ago. So right there and then I decided, when the question came, nobody asked. So I asked him, yeah, I have a question. I want to know what's your experience as, having gone through this program, having done PBL, do you really use it in your life? And he was like, that's a really nice question. And he was like, yeah, I use it and this is nice. So it was like, I was very spontaneous there.
Asking a question that really tickles the personal stories of the interviewer is a great strategy. I mean, you probably didn't need it as a strategy, but then it is even a great strategy because,
Yeah,
you know, we have been talking for so long.
yeah,
The applicants, they would also like to talk. It's just the
yeah,
general, like talk
yeah.
about their experience and engage.
Yeah.
It's a great
And
opportunity.
Flynn, I noticed that in the PBL, like most of my friends who got accepted, they are people who don't care. Like they're like, they just, they want to say something, they ask. They're not that, we see a lot of students, especially Indians, are very stiff, stuck up, they're scared. They're like, sir, I want to say this. They're like very like, like army type. But that's not they want people who are like, just like themselves, easygoing.
True. I mean, this part of the world, most of us have been raised in that or
Yeah.
educated in that a very
Yeah,
formal
yeah,
sense and
yeah.
asked to be extremely
So
and
most
not
of the
talk about a
people,
weakness.
yeah, who
Yeah,
have been accepted were people who goofed up in the interview. They laughed a lot. They, made fun with their facilitator. Those are the kind of people who got accepted.
that's nice. And I think these are small things that really, like, for example, your question in the end, or how you were really calm and chill about everything, could have been that one reason why you were waitlist one and then you got to come in. So everything,
Yeah.
every small thing counts, right? Because
And
they should
I
remember you.
also feel
Yeah,
they observe you a lot, how you act under stress. If you're able to, hold up the entire stress.
makes sense because you're choosing you all to go through a, like you said, the first trimester was you
Yeah.
being through before.
Yeah. I almost died through the
So
first
yes,
time.
and this is true for mostly every school. I think that when you get into it, everyone's super busy, a lot of things flying in. So
Yeah.
yes, which is why they probably sort of measure how you do well in stress. Okay, so moving on to the next question. How long is this interview? Is this PBL usually?
1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour.
All right, fair enough. Can you tell us about how many students clear PBL and attend the bench test? How was that?
So there's nothing like who cleared PBL, who cleared bench test. There's nothing. You finish it, you go in three weeks to a month, you get an email, you got accepted, or all of you get waitlisted. That's it. And then maybe a few days after that, if somebody withdraws, consequently, people get accepted. In my group, there were so many people who came from waitlist. About even 12 people are from the waitlist. So large number of us came from the
Nice.
waitlist.
So you mean to say that the PBL, it's not like you clear PBL and then do the bench. It comes as a
Yeah.
unit. You do both.
Yeah, it's
And then
it's
the
a
results come.
unit. Yeah, what we know is they rank you in each project in the PBL, in the bench exam, and in the PBL they have criterias like, are you dressed appropriately? Do you respect people? Do you like, we don't know the exact thing, but there are things, and then you get a total, and then your project totals, and then you get a grand sum total, and in that in that they rank you 1 2 3 4 like that. The first 34 gets accepted, and then the next 10, or everybody gets waitlisted, and then from the waitlist you go.
Okay, yeah, I've heard this. I mean,
It's an
USC,
internal
they wait
thing,
for
I
everyone.
don't
Yeah.
know, but yeah.
Okay. Um, don't, is it, yeah, okay, now let's talk about bench. Again, just like how you gave us a lot of insights on the, PBL. How, so is it advisable to add the, okay, I'll come to that later. But before that, Sharmini, did you prep for the bench? How did you prep? How was USC's bench?
Yeah. So before I talk about that, Flynn, let me tell you this, that we asked the admissions coordinator, like, how is it like you have to pass the PBL, you have to pass the bench? He said, no. You could even fail in a project in the bench, still we could accept you, because you could be so amazing in your PBL that, you could be so amazing that we are like, okay, this person just needs room to grow. She can come in and grow. Or you might get 100 on your bench but perform so badly on PBL. You're not a team player. You could be so amazing clinically, they still won't accept you. So it's not like 100 and 0. It's about you as a person. Everything comes together.
That sounds super stressful, but it's amazing because it's better than just losing because you lost 1 point in your bench or something like that.
Yeah,
Looking at overall, yeah.
I had, many of us had, like, I had a problem with one of my bench project. It was not bad, but I felt like I could have done better, but I got accepted. So we asked the coordinator, and that's what the admissions coordinator, and he was like, it, there are people who did amazing on the bench, but we didn't like them on the PBL. So it's not like, black and white. If we feel that you've got that personality to come into the school, we will pick you.
It's like someone else in one of the last Pathfinders. I don't know if it was Dr. Shrey or someone said, "You don't pick the school picks
Who
you,"
picks
is what
you?
she said.
Yes. Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I think this is in a way. I know it probably sounds for some people a little stressful, the ones who like to go, step by step. But I think it's lovely because you get to sort of, project your strengths in both aspects, and then, even if you have a bit of weakness here and there, you
Yeah.
set rules for both. That's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah. And now a little bit about the bench. They give you
Yes.
projects. We don't know exactly what you're gonna get, but there's definitely three projects. One is like a wax carving. You're gonna get a tooth. Some years ago, people used to get like a telephone handle or something, but we got a tooth. Many years, there's been like premolars, and they give you a picture and you carve, which you can practice. And then there is an onlay inlay situation where they are assessing your critical thinking. There's a radiograph, there's a clinical picture, and they want you to do a prep where they're assessing, do you understand what is given? There's a caries here, it's become bigger, so they want you to open the box distally. Are you opening the box distally? It's more thinking based. So practice on, looking at x-rays and thinking. That's one project. And another is like a simple straight crown cutting. It could be PFM or any crown cutting.
Did you prep for it by going for a course or something, or did you prep by yourself?
No, I prepped by myself. I prepped by myself, but I showed it to all my friends and got opinions.
However you prep, just prep and get it critiqued. Like, she did.
Yeah, get it
Lisa.
critiqued by people.
Yeah.
If you know somebody in the school, show it to them. If you know anybody who's a practicing dentist, go show it to them. Watch videos, Stevenson's videos, whichever. If you can afford, it would be amazing to go to a program. It's up to you. It's your bandwidth, what you can accommodate.
Yes, those in-person programs are also very well. I mean, everyone
Yeah.
who goes there has a great time and comes back, and
Yeah.
then you practice. So, like she
Yeah.
said, if you can afford to in terms of time and
Yeah.
finances, both, then
Yeah.
definitely go
Yeah.
for it. Otherwise, practice. And I think on a again under sort of related side note, networking really helps when you like in general. All of us say, do network when you get into this application cycle, and not just that. Anyhow, networking, making friends is important, but especially in this process. And when you find those friends, the competitors become your friends, and that really helps. If you find that diamond in the rough, really helps to sort of buddy up and work together, critique each other, and that even helps you in terms of time because you have someone doing it quickly for you. It helps you with money. You don't really have to go to other people like say Caapid Simplified and pay money. So anywhere you can save on money and save on time, it's always a good day. So all these resources, make use of that. I think we've covered all the questions about the bench as well. The Dr. Sylvie has asked Sharmini, could you guide us how to answer the supplemental questions for USC? Did you?
For me, I was very simple, straight, and basic. I didn't talk a lot. I talked exactly what I wanted to say. So they don't want to keep reading a lot of things. They just want the point. So keep it very easy and simple for the reader. That's how we went. I think I also showed it to you guys, and we kept it very simple.
Yes, don't fluff it up, right? Like write
Mm.
what you have to directly answer the question. Yes, MS.
Hi everyone. I'm just taking a cue out of Sharmini's answer and adding on to it. The thing about Sharmini's answer, statement, everything is that it's very simple. The points are all there. There is a beautiful flow. And if you know her now, and if you go back and read her answers, they will be the exact same tone. There's no
Yeah,
fluffing. There is no, beating around the bush. She's very upfront about her strengths and her weaknesses. So I think that's something, if it's natural to you, is something we should all try to. Keep
yeah,
it simple and straight from the heart, but
yeah.
showcase your strengths or your takeaways from the
Yeah.
experiences.
To add to you, Meenakshi, like recently last week, we had a fight on Friday, and I was there with my admissions counselor. So, one of the questions the students who are coming, they asked us, like, something they asked, and he told them, when we read a statement of purpose, a profile, and when we see the person, if it doesn't match, we know if it matches or if it doesn't match. If it doesn't match, we know this person has used outside people and fluffed it up, and they're just trying to get in, and we know exactly to eliminate them. We know the person, we can just read through them, the SOP and them, like we don't even need to talk to them. When we see them, we know, right? Like what they've written, how they are, we know. So we were like, wow.
This is very important to note, I think, because
Yeah,
and thank you for bringing this up, Sharmini, because this really shows the amount of involvement that you should have in your application. Meaning to say
yeah,
that if you're doing it yourself, you obviously
yeah,
100% involvement. If you're going to a friend and doing it, you still need to have that, 70, 80% involvement. Where just the
yeah,
right thing happens. Even if you come
yeah,
to someone like us who don't even
yeah,
know you as a friend, your involvement when we need a questionnaire or when you have a call with you, try to really get like download your mind if you need an external hand is also very important. And I
yeah,
say this because a lot of times when we work with people, there is that impression that we've come to you, now you do everything, but that just
yeah,
doesn't work because of in your benefit, not because of us, but for you to
yes,
have a really good reflection. And
yeah,
I'm glad that you said this, because that is kind of scary, right? Because you
yeah,
want them to really, because see, people
yeah,
who need help are people who can't articulate. So when you
yeah,
articulate with someone else, you should be your
yeah,
character and your strength
yeah,
or your
yeah,
personality should also reflect through.
yeah.
So
So,
your
Flynn,
involvement, yeah.
like for me, what happened, I did everything on my own material. Flynn, Minakshi, they helped me, they gave that edge to me, but it was me. Like everything I wanted to say, they amplified it, but the core was me. So, when I went there, I felt that confidence in me. Like, if you don't feel confident in English, even do it in your mother language and you can translate it. Like whatever language it comes from within you, put it up in your own words. And he also mentioned that we're not looking for the best English, for amazing words, for those complicated words. We don't even like to see those words, he said. Like when we read and we find those words, it's a message, like, it's like a red alert. So keep it simple, easy, clean to understand, to how you are as a person.
Thank you, Sharmini. Yes. So let your statement, not just your statement, your supplementals also, but mostly your statements. That's the most important one. Reflect your personality. For the bigger personality, bigger than life people, let that reflect in your statement. For the creative people, let that reflect. If you speak like you're speaking out of a thesaurus, then please write like that. But if you speak like you just talk conversationally, like how she is, then let that reflect as well. So I think this is a great takeaway, Sharmini, for everyone, because a lot of them are prepping for the upcoming cycle as well. And we're
Yeah.
almost at the opening end of
Yeah.
opening date,
And
another week
yeah,
to go.
and if you have been invited to the school for the interview, that means they know everything about you. They remember. Don't think, oh, they don't remember. No, no, no. They remember everything. They know everything. So, be good. You've been picked.
True. We're coming to the end of the webinar in like another 10 minutes or so, because especially because Sharmini has a hard stop in another 10 minutes. Um, Dr. Sylvia, I think MS will address that question in the chat for you about the statement. Meanwhile, we can take two more brief questions before we leave. If any of you all have anything else that you directly want to ask her, you can raise your hands and unmute and speak. You don't have to open your video. I mean, turn on your video. But if anyone has any question, we can take one or two more depending on the time. Meanwhile, Sharmini, do you have any closing statements or something you want to tell them before you sort of wrap up and say goodbye?
Yeah, so I think, give it your 100% or just don't do it. If you're doing it, if it's a cycle, it's just go all in, not even 100, 150. Just go jump all in and give it your best. Learn from that cycle. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. You can do it the next cycle. But, the first cycle, it matters a lot. So give it your 100% and network with your friends. Your friends are not your competitors. In the end, you all are, it's a big group. So make sure you network well. These networks go beyond all of this. Eventually you're going to go into some school that you're going to be connected. So be good and know about the school, know what the school likes, the mottos of the school, the visions of the school, learn more about the school you're interviewing at.
Thank you, Sharmini. We have gotten a couple of last few questions
Mhm.
to go on with. Dr. Vidya asked, by any chance, do you remember how many applicants were invited for PBL and bench, approximately?
So last year we had 1,200 applicants, 160 were invited, 34 was accepted. And then this year, 1,300 applicants, again around 100 and some 150 odd are invited, and they pick 34 with about 15 on the wait list, the top waiting list.
This is that's amazing. I mean, these are the numbers, which is why you all have to remember that if one cycle does not go well for you, it does not mean that it is not because you're not good enough. It's just because the numbers just don't make sense. In a way that there are a lot of people applying and a few more. And in case you haven't made it in the first cycle, obviously stop and introspect, do course correction, all of that. But please don't be demotivated and think that it's all because you're not worth it, because most of the cases it's not that, right? Because you see the numbers 1,300, 150 and 34, so they milk the best out of the best. So be yourself, and that's probably the best way you can show them why they should choose you. And yes, Dr. Kimaya asks, who did you pick as your recommenders during that cycle?
So for me, I would suggest you to pick someone who knows you the best. For me, definitely you need a dean's letter. So one is there. I had a faculty from BDS days who was my mentor. So I picked him. He was my HOD, prosthodontics HOD. I picked him. And then I picked my dental hygiene faculty, which was different from the rest. But he was a faculty who knew me very well. So I picked him and it worked for me.
The last person, can you repeat that? I think I was reading, I'm sorry.
My dental hygiene faculty.
Faculty, so not a not a dentist in the clinic.
No.
You went with the faculty. Is that because you
Yes.
did not have a US dentist to recommend, or you chose to go with
No,
hygiene?
I wanted to pick him because I worked with him closely throughout the time I was there, and he knew me exactly as a person. So that's why I picked him. I was very choosy on who I picked.
Okay, nice. This kind of confidence is really important to know, because I think to know and identify which recommender knows you the best, and because you'll also be confident in submitting, or in them submitting the letters. I think that's amazing. All right, I think we have completed every question. Dr. Divya, Meenakshi has sort of answered your question, and I agree with that. That is also what you spoke about, your personal struggles or belief struggles are one of the biggest struggles that all of us have as humans, I think. Right. So that is definitely, if you can talk about, how you can come across, I mean, how you overcame that, then nothing like it. And MS is talking to you more about it there. Before we wrap up, I would like to just address one thing, which was, I think, Dr. Vidya, yes, who asked about Kira assessment questions. Vidya, largely depends on the schools that, are asking the Kira, because we have seen that there are different kinds of questions that come through in schools like NYU versus Tufts versus, let's say, Indiana. So an example is in Indiana, because they do focus quite a bit on community service. especially since they ask for a letter from the community service organization and all of that. A lot of their questions we have seen are very ethical or again community service oriented. So I can tell you a couple of questions that I remember. One was this one really stuck with me, so I remember this, which is, if your family tells you not to do community service and or not to really focus more time on that, would you, because there's a reason that it doesn't pay well, what will you do about it and how will you convince them? So that was one. And a lot of questions about stress. How will you manage stress? And if you have a burnout, what will you do, etc. Then again, minor ethical questions or situational questions, like if two people are arguing, how will you, figure that out? And if you were to, I remember one time someone told us, this is last cycle, I think, if you were to give a book to a student, to a child, what would you give them? So also the takeaway here is you can't really fully be prepared for Kira thinking only this kind of questions will come, because you wouldn't expect a curveball question like, what book would you give a child if you're thinking about ethical or situational? But the idea is to prepare a little bit based on the school, of course, but then also have an open mind as to, I'm just conversing with the person. If they have to understand who I am in my core, what answer should I give? So just go with that openness, practice a few questions, speak to yourself in the mirror. And timing is obviously also there. I think Indiana gave around 50 seconds or something to prep and 2 minutes to answer, while Tufts would have, I think, maybe given a little bit more. NYU gave 1 minute and 2 minutes, I think. So it's a little bit around there, depending on the schools. But I hope this helps you and whoever else is looking for Kira support. Okay, thank you. Sharmini, thank you so much for for doing this. I know that everyone who's been doing this with us till now extremely busy and with work, life, all of that. But thank you for being here. I would like to wrap up now that Sharmini is done with her, closing statements. Just to go through a few things that she said through this, Pathfinder. One thing that she said is first year is extremely rigorous. They throw you into the hot pot, which I'm bringing that up again because it's a little funny, but also that is, I think awareness is important for you all to know that you're entering into something which is bigger than you, maybe what you've seen. That is also exciting because she said she cries, all of them cry together, which means you're in it together, but you're in it, right? Then in the PBL interviews, you're not fighting with each other, you're fighting with yourself, 100%. And give it your 100% or don't, or just don't, go in, right? And then, yeah, you don't talk for the sake of talking. If you don't have, I forgot the verbatim, but if you don't have if you don't have sense to talk,
open your mouth only if there is sense, or don't
yes, that. And I think something that our head coach said, which is don't hijack, but connect. Don't hijack the conversation, connect. So I hope these are your key takeaways, and anything else that helped you all. Good luck with your application. We really hope that you belong to that category of 34 or in the bigger picture, 1,000 people who get in. If you don't get there, if this is your goal, please diversify, please course correct, and please remain sane, take care of yourself, take that break for yourself.
Yes.
Have a good night. Have a good morning to the rest of you who's joining from other places. Thank you, Sharmini. See you soon. I'll talk to you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Meenakshi. Thank you so much.